Welcome, everyone, back to our finale for the Securing Your Digital Footprint web series. We want to thank you for joining us during these 4 weeks. We want to most definitely show appreciation to ConnectWise and our cybersecurity expert, Natalie Suarez. Without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Natalie to wrap things up for us. Make sure you check out our YouTube channel because that's where you can see all 4 parts in totality. Natalie, without further ado, I turn it over to you.
Thank you so much, Latia. Thank you so much for Heritage Digital for having me here. I'm just going to wrap it up. Let's first begin, since this has been all about your business's digital footprint. Let's talk about, again, what that means. I want to make sure you understand that your digital footprint contains elements such as your search rankings, your social media presence, online reviews, any of your overall brand visibility. You can really use this to your advantage by analyzing it. A really cool way to analyze it might be AI. And if you want to have an in-person conversation about that, we'll be able to do that real soon. I'm looking forward to seeing all of you. So, what are some things you can do to protect your digital footprint? Well, as stated before, keep all your software updated. Require strong passwords. And it's so much more important to require those strong passwords than to require people to change them every 90 days. That's kind of old school. What we really should be doing is using password managers, training our staff to make sure that they know how to use that password manager so that they're able to manage their passwords, have really long passwords. Personally, mine are all 20 characters, upper, lowercase, numbers, crazy special characters, as long as the site I'm using can take those. Another thing to be aware of with password managers is, you know what else they're really great at? Storing those crazy security questions some sites make you use, like maybe your banking, even for your business, right? If you're answering questions like what was my first car or what was my maiden name, those are things that are publicly available. So what I would advise there is you could save those questions and answers in your password manager and make up crazy answers that only not protects you from someone trying to phish you, but it protects you from someone trying to phish or social engineer like your financial institution. So multi-factor authentication, again, some methods of multi-factor are better than others. Securing your Wi-Fi or your router, both at home and for your business. Don't use default passwords, change those, pay attention to configurations. When you're traveling, only use secure Wi-Fi. Use VPNs. Now, I understand sometimes we have to use public Wi-Fi, and the chances of something bad happening, they're not really enormously great, right? But you should use a VPN if you have to do that. Good culture of cybersecurity, super important. Encourage and enforce cybersecurity standards with your employees because cybersecurity is everyone's business. We hear a lot that we're the weakest link, and we're not the weakest link. We're your first defense. We're the human firewall. Make sure that when your staff makes a mistake, because they will, because I have, I bet Latia has, I bet Luke has, I bet other people have, that they know who to contact, right? Don't make them feel like they're going to be subject to a public flogging. Make them feel encouraged that if they make a mistake, they know who to contact and we can mitigate any damage. So regular security awareness training, including updates on new tech disruptors. AI is the greatest thing since the internet was invented, guys. You want to make sure that your staff isn't sharing intellectual property or personally identifiable information, or if you're in healthcare, PHI. Reinforce good habits with your employees. You wouldn't want to post anything in AI that you wouldn't post publicly, wouldn't want out there for people to see, right? Teach your staff how to fact check. I mean, we all know, right? Luke and Latia, everything on the internet is true, right?
Yes, yes,
Most
yes.
definitely, right? Without a doubt. So,
Especially Wikipedia, that should be your
oh,
first
oh
source.
yeah, especially Wikipedia. This is our sarcastic font, people. You may not have heard the news story, but interestingly enough, I was just listening to one of my podcasts and they were talking about two things on it. One, they were talking about how they had made mistakes and had clicked links in phishing emails because everyone does it because we get busy, not because we don't know any better, right? And the other thing they were talking about is what a disruptor AI is. And they were talking about a couple stories. They were talking about the attorney who cited 6 cases that didn't exist because he heard about Chat GPT from his kids. And let me tell you, the judge had no sense of humor about that. So you want to be super careful, right? And then they were also talking about this other story I mentioned about the multinational company in Hong Kong, where there was, I believe it was a Teams meeting. It was at least a web meeting of some kind, right? And it was everyone was digitally created, and they fooled the employee into transferring the equivalent of $25 million US. You don't want to be that person,
Wow.
right? Have regular
Yeah.
data backups. Not only do you need to have backups, you need to test them and make sure that they work. So if you need them, they will work, right? You also need to have some, securities are about people, process, and tech, right? So you also need to have a business continuity disaster recovery plan. Cyber is not your only worry. I mean, where I live, it's I'm not tornadoes, hurricanes, which you can get tornadoes from hurricanes. I have tornadoes on the brain because all the bad weather. Where you live, it may be tornadoes, it may be flooding, whatever. You also need to have an incident response plan. What happens if a bad guy does get in, right? You don't want to be thinking about what do I do next in the middle of a crisis, because no one thinks correctly in the middle of a crisis, right? You
Correct.
know, follow the principle of least privileges. Don't do the all or nothing security model where everyone has admin access because it's just easier. It is easier. It also makes it easier for a bad guy, right? Probably, speak to Heritage Digital about how you can implement how you can implement zero trust, you know, so that we're making sure not only individuals don't have access to things that they don't need, that other machines don't have things that they don't need. Continuous vulnerability scanning, data encryption. You may have some data that is so critical that you need to encrypt it at rest, not just in transit, right? Proper configuration of your DNS, your domain name services. That is the yellow pages, if that still exists, of the internet. I love it when I date myself like that in something that's going to live forever. The internet's forever, people. Luke, do you have any final thoughts you want to share?
Absolutely. I think since the event we had last week, we received a lot of feedback regarding the suggestion how not to use Chat GPT and how not to put anything private. I think that really surprised a lot of people.
Oh,
And one
wow.
suggestion we've been kind of pointing towards people is if you find a legitimate business need for Chat GPT, consider purchasing Copilot Pro. It is
Mhm.
powered by ChatGPT, but it abides by your data governance policies in
There you
Office
go.
365. So then that's a real game changer because up until recently there was a 300 seat minimum, which really limited who could afford it. But now you can buy one-offs, and it is wildly powerful when you plug it into Office 365.
It is. It's wildly powerful for data analytics. You could really get a great picture of your digital footprint by using something like that. A data nerd like me would go to town with that. It really can be used for great things. And something else they mentioned on my podcast, we shouldn't be using AI just because we think it's cool. We should be using it for a real business case. And this is a real business case, your data analytics for your digital footprint. Latia, do you have something you wanted to add?
Yeah, I actually did get 3 questions in. So the
Oh,
first one was going back to what you were originally talking about with the passwords.
mhm.
And as we all know, different companies require different requirements. So what people have been doing is keeping the same password over and over. Can either you or Luke speak to why that is dangerous and why people should not do that?
Yes.
Hmm.
You want me to
Oh
take
yeah,
it
that's
first,
for
Luke, or you
Natalie.
want to?
Yep,
Okay, thank you.
it's right up your wheelhouse.
The reason it's dangerous is because, okay, first of all, we have to get security right every single time. Bad guy has to get it right once. People who are especially using the same password over and over again, I can guarantee you they're using it in multiple places. There have been at least 5 breaches of Chat GPT that is in particular that they know of. Amazon's been breached. Ring Camera, which is now part of Amazon, has been breached. Facebook has been breached. All of these All of these things we use in our daily lives have been breached. The minute it is breached, what happens is it goes into the dark web where bad guys will pay for it, and then they will use automated means to try breaking into everything, including your business. And many times they're successful. According to the Verizon Data Breach Investigations Report, almost 50% of all attacks come from credentials that have been they're using automated means to try to find where they can break in. So use different passwords for LinkedIn, Facebook, all those things. And you just have to use a password manager. It's a very cost effective thing to use.
All right, great. Thank you so very much. Go
There
ahead,
is
Luke.
really good password managers now built in. If you're an Apple person, built into
Yes.
iOS, that has dark web scanning built in. And by no means are we suggesting this is a business tool, but as for in your personal life,
Mhm.
the Apple iOS has some great features, and Google Chrome, your browser, also has some great features too.
Yes.
Now, if you want to go to the next level for a professional one, that would be something we'd love to talk to you about, because we have enterprise grade password tools available to you. But on the personal side, there's some great free tools out there already.
Yeah, those enterprise grade tools allow you to safely use passwords that might be maybe a break glass type of password or a special admin type password that everyone doesn't need to have, but maybe you could share it with others. And the personal password tools, they've become so advanced now too. Like Luke said, don't use them in your business, but personally, you should use them. They've got great features for sharing passwords with your family. I mean, I'm level 1 tech support for my family. So I'm like the keeper of the passwords because goodness gracious, God forbid someone else use their own password manager.
I think we're all about level 1 tech for our families.
Yeah.
Thank you both. So
Yeah.
the other question was, people wanted to know, they were getting a little perplexed about the VPN versus the hotspot. Obviously, this is going more into the community, but I think it is still a good question for people to understand the difference and why you would want to use one versus the other.
So a hotspot is better than public Wi-Fi, that's for sure. Most people nowadays, you can use your phone. Hold on, my phone's not showing. You can use your phone as a hotspot, right? But especially if I'm doing my banking or something like that, I'm even turning a VPN on my phone to encrypt everything even further. So, but I know I wear a tinfoil hat. But yes, a hotspot is much better than public Wi-Fi.
Anything you wanted to add to that, Luke, or any other tips you have for the community at large on that one?
No, I mean, they're separate but complementary tools. Hotspots really just a means to access the internet. So it's no different if you're using a public Wi-Fi, Spectrum Wi-Fi. They all have the same inherent technology issue, but the VPN, what that ensures is all your traffic's encrypted back and forth. So it's not one or the other. It can be both.
Yes,
Okay.
it can be.
All right, thank you both. And then the last question that came up is something that's kind of real time almost for our community here, because as we kind of spoke about, I think it was either last week or the week before, about those QR codes. And so what's happening now is people are coming around with what appears to be a legitimate business card, and it has a QR code on there. Any other suggestions or thoughts you can have to help people with, so that they don't fall subject to, oh, well, this looks like a legit person with the business card, why they either should not just, scan that QR code, or how should they actually go about verifying if that's a legitimate business or not?
So that is a QR code from a stranger. And my advice for QR codes and links and documents all remains the same. Unless you know the person and you're expecting it, don't scan it, don't click on it. Because I mean, I could go make up business cards right now, right? At any Office Depot and hand out business cards. So, I mean, I just be ultra cautious, but also when you do scan a QR code, if you pay attention, it will tell you the URL you're going to before you click on it. So look at the URL. I mean, it could be very legitimate, but be careful.
We're so used to using our stock photo app to scan those QR codes. They now do have security applications that you can open up and scan the QR code. So it'll essentially open it in a sandbox, no different than our link protection software that is involved in every email. It evaluates where that QR takes you to. And that's one, and there's a lot of them now in the App Store, whether you're a Google Play person or an Apple App Store, they are out there, and we highly encourage them to use those. Scan the unknown QR code is no different than clicking a link of unknown origins. It's the same
Right.
thing, just a different means to get there.
That's right. It's the exact same thing.
No, great information. Thank you, guys. And for anyone else out there, if you do have any more questions, we're about to wrap up for today, but most definitely post them in our social media sites, our YouTube, and you can always send it to me directly. I'll make sure to get it out to Natalie and Luke so they can give you that firsthand cybersecurity expert update. Natalie, you've provided so much great information during these 4 weeks. Anything else, Luke or Natalie, from either of you before we wrap up for this series?
I'm just excited for our next in-person event. The tabletop's, such an important part of business that we're really looking forward to sharing that with the community.
Yeah, most
Looking
definitely.
forward to it. It'll be fun.
All right. Well, thank you guys both and safe travels. Goodbye,
All right.
everyone.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.